You're listening to episode 200 of the Super League Pod. Strap yourself in, kids. We hate Leeds.
Hello listeners, you're listening to episode 200 of the Super League Pod, and I promised you last week that it'd be a little bit different. The main difference is we're recording in Yorkshire, which is a first for the Super League Pod, and also it's multi-host format. It's not like one gets knocked out every round or anything like that. We're just going to rotate, so we've got a group of people who've hosted the show over the years, and they're all going to chip in as we go. So let's do all our welcomes and introductions and tell everyone how our weeks have been or so forth. And we'll start with Alan.
Hello. My first confession to everybody is I watched zero rugby league this weekend. So I'll just talk a little shite about rugby league, as usual.
Excellent. What have you been doing instead of
watching rugby? I've been cycling in the Netherlands. It's my get away from everything trip, kind of a few times a year. So it was really good. Really enjoyed that. And I'm back to reality now. Back to work. Okay,
we've also got Sarah in the room, one of the mainstays of the co-hosting. You're gonna have to shout, Sarah. You're the furthest away from the microphone.
Yeah, I've had a good week. I had an exciting time on Saturday around the match because Joshua got to be the junior media manager for the day, so we had lots of fun touring the stadium and meeting the players and stuff.
We got to see you on the official Twitter feed in a little video and stuff, didn't we, Sarah? So talk a little bit about what Joshua's jobs were for the day, because it looked so exciting. I was so jealous.
So he got to sit in a board meeting with James Clark and tell him what his thoughts were about the club, what could be improved, what other things they could do. You got a tour of the stadium from Keith Tyndall, who used to play for Hull. Then saw some of the players in the changing room, met the rest of the players as they were coming into the ground, went over to the media offices and got to see them, saw Adam Pearson's office, which is very cool. And then it was up to the top of the West Stand, sit at a press bench and watch the match. He wrote a match report. He was on Radio Humberside at half time, and then after the match he got to interview Lee Radford,
which is definitely the highlight for all of us following it along, when he got to ask him why the defence was so rubbish, basically. Yeah. And then watch Radford almost spontaneously compose. One of the things that I was going to ask, what did he get to do? Did he interact with the press? Did you do the Twitter feed, things like that?
We didn't do the Twitter feed. Lewis, who is the grown-up media manager, he did.
Barely.
Well, yeah. More grown-up than Joshua. But he did all the social media side of it while Joshua was dictating a match report to me, because his dyslexia doesn't allow for typing and watching. So yeah, he was telling me what to write and I was writing it for him.
That's what you say, but really you just wanted to say I wrote the match report to your friends, didn't you? We've also got another Hull FC fan in the house. We've got Langers. How you going?
Alright, yeah. Good bit not such an exciting week. Alan's been out and about. Sarah's been media managing. I've just had a usual week at work. Probably highlight of my week was meeting Mr. Naden and Nikki in a pub for a pint pre-match.
Yeah, and Rob's favourite, Nikki's sister.
I don't think she was there.
The final voice in the room is our unrivalled sponsor of the show, Mr. Fatboy Rob.
Hiya, how are you doing?
I'm alright, how are you?
I'm very good. I've watched the former champions beat Wakefield, and then I've spent 3 days cleaning up for you guys to come around and record.
Fair enough. Well, my week kind of doesn't rival yours in terms of levels of interest either, because probably the most interesting thing I did is fixed my washing machine. Not fixed it. It needed cleaning, basically. I cleaned my washing machine, should I say.
So what Mark's saying is he got some Calgon, put it in the machine.
You know, I cleaned all the connections and everything as well. Yeah, the pipes were cleaned, so to speak.
Started already.
Yeah. So right, okay. So that's everyone introduced for the round table. We're going to try and mix up who does what parts of the show as we go along. We're going to start opening up the show with Langer's debate about what is a fan. Then I'll give out my thank yous as we reach a milestone episode, the 200th show. That'll be followed by a special interview with SLP listener and TV commentator Barrie McDermott. After that, we'll do some of the normal stuff: news, match reviews, results, predictions. We'll end with a quiz covering the stats over the 200 shows existence of the Super League pod, before closing the show out with some of your SLP memories. So, Langers, last week we put this forward. Do you want to frame it? It was basically fans versus supporters.
Yeah, it's a question that I've kind of discussed quite a few times, and I think it's kind of centred on whose opinion carries more weight, who has the more right to have an opinion about a club. Is it kind of the fans that go home and away, like kind of Scoots and Joshua and Joshua's granddad, or compared to myself, who can kind of usually only go to maybe 7, 8, 9 games a year, and doesn't kind of go away, but I buy the shirts, I attend the charity dues, and kind of buy training kit, all that kind of stuff. It's just,
I thought it was you having a bit of a guilty conscience. No,
I mean,
wanting us to all appease that by saying, no, you're still a fan too.
No, I mean, I kind of, I think I accept I'm not as much of a fan, but are the levels? I mean, whose opinion counts more? Does everybody have the same opinion, or should some people kind of be able to say, no, your opinion doesn't carry as much weight because you don't put as much into the club?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that just any time someone disagrees on a fan's message board, it always goes back to this, doesn't it? We've got loads of people's views in. I'm going to run through a few of those. Frogmore got in touch at Wally Frogmore. He said, I don't know where in the debate I'd fit on the supporter or fan situation. Do I attend games? No, it's a bit far to travel. Do I give money to the club and buy merch? Yes. Am I a club member? No. I am the mad bastard who structures my weekend around getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning just to watch games, win or lose. You're goddamn right I am. The times I've seen this debate, it's like the terms are interchangeable. Okay. Mark Butler got in touch. He said, my take on fandom levels: my commitment to rugby league is more heavily weighted towards the armchair. I tend to go to a few games every year, and I've always been a more general fan of the sport rather than a regular attendee anywhere in particular. I also tend to enjoy the spectacle rather than be any sort of tactical mastermind. I've also got no qualms about admitting that if you're at a game every week and plan your life around fixtures, that you're a bigger fan than me. The biggest fans warrant respect. You can't build a club or game without them. It's a many-layered business, though. When I was younger, I'd have judged people who went to less Wrexham FC than I did, but I hope I get it a bit more now. There are other things in life. You can't really claim... This is a big one, isn't it? Yeah. You can't really claim to be a big fan as someone who shows it with their money and time more than you do. But so what? It's not a competition, and an occasional fan can't be taken for granted. What rugby union has nailed is the role of the casual. Some people do one big game a year, but they play a big part in making the game a success with what attendance at internationals, big double headers, or via their TV subscription. Plenty rail against those people there too, but it ought to be a broad church. We lose sight sometimes that it's meant to be fun and not a job. Going when you can is alright if you play a part for rugby league to succeed. Those of us in that camp need to become more numerous at showpiece events and clubs' own big games. The hardcore do have to be acknowledged and as such kept at the forefront of thinking, but you know you've really made it when you reel in everyone else for a piece of the action. That's a place for all contributions. For what it's worth, I suspect more people are in the same place as this. Fans will fall out most things, but I don't think there's a culture of wanting a certain type of fan to vanish. That right, we don't need to talk about the rest of it. Mark's covered it. David Powell said, I think there is a difference between fans and supporters. I don't think it gives fans more right to an opinion, though. In fact, as a fan, my passion can easily blind me to the truth, particularly in the moment or when speaking to an opposition fan. That's a really interesting take, because some fans are completely blinded to the truth, what's going on around them, and other people have a rounded perspective. Bob Phillips always balances. Bob, he says, an excellent question. Who are the gatekeepers to fandom? Who says who is a real fan and who isn't? There's certainly a drive to make it hierarchical. Some are better than others. As a supporter of the Rhinos and as a loyal fan of SLP, I have my own definitions, but those definitions will unfairly exclude those who have less power and privilege than I do. Well, being Listener of the Year every year so far gives them a lot of power. It says, supporter follows and enjoys, doesn't go out of their way to attend or engage. A fan alters their behaviour to be part of this crowd. If you're in a place where you feel unsafe attending games, many trans people, for example, avoid attending sporting events, say Stonewall, then it's much harder to be a fan. Similarly, if you're on a very low income for season ticket rules, or can't travel independently, so don't have a helper who will get you to games, you're lesser, but because the structure stops you. So maybe the fairest is to let people use their own descriptions and not fuss so much. Some people know all the teams back to 2004. Others have a long conversation with Castleford legends and have no idea who they are. If they want to promote or enjoy the greatest game, they are all valid. Thanks as always, Bob. And then Phil Nadin says, and this is a strange one, Phil's, because it cuts into it in a totally different way to what everyone else has so far, and I think you'll be interested in this one, Langers. He says, the fan supporter is not clear-cut as it might first sound if you look deep into it. The way Rich looks at it, in my opinion, should be the other way round. A fan is someone who watches at home on the sofa and keeps an eye on the score online and might go to a game or a final. The supporter is the person who is devoted to the club, home and away games, semi-finals, finals, buys all the match day shirts, training shirts and leisure wear, books holidays and games around games and sacrifices work for their club. But it's a clear cut that sounds as there are the supporters who only manage 80% of that, and a devoted supporter, and this is still probably down to money and family commitments. So is this sort of person only a fan or a supporter? They still go to home games more than the fan, but they can't get to all the away games. They still buy the shirts, but might wait till the Magic shirts are on discount. Well, how many shirts have all had this year? 8. So this isn't a simple one side or the other debate. There are different levels of support, and I dare say fans as well. Now, I'll start because I'm on your side, Langers, in terms of the fan is the fanatic, is the person like I'd certainly say three of us in this room are. We go all the time. Our lives kind of are built around when the games are going to be, and then the supporter is the more on the back foot kind of those two things. Doesn't go to every game. Will go when they can, but their life is more important than the rugby. So do you? I think the way Phil's described it is what I would agree with. I would use the terms the way you have. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's what I mean. As you said, fan comes from fanatic, so that's kind of where I was coming from. Those are the guys that buy everything, do everything, as you say, structure the will cancel a holiday kind of thing. I mean, my father-in-law fell out with his in-laws because when Hull made the Challenge Cup in 2016, he went with his brother instead of going to family wedding because he said they might never get there in my lifetime again. So he went, and that's still a massive family rift now because he made that decision and went, no, I'm gonna go to that game. Whereas I would have gone to the wedding, but I would have had my phone with me and I'd have been somewhere with Wi-Fi just to watch it kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I've missed semi-finals in the past for people's weddings, but found a gap to watch the game on the TV. So yeah, I'm on board with that. Rob, have you ever turned round on an internet forum and told someone their opinion's less valid because they don't go to all the games?
No.
You
do find that people who don't go to as many games seem to spend more time on the forums, though, especially at CAS. But 25 years ago, I would have said that you had to go to the games to be a proper fan. I think now you can watch just as much, if not more, on Sky, on YouTube, on the video clips on Tiger TV.